Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I'm also, I have two fellowships right now, one at the business school for entrepreneurship, the LePage Faculty Fellow, and I also have another really cool fellowship at the Newcomb Institute, the Greenbaum Fellowship, looking at narrativity, gender, and fiber. And, of course, I just want to quilt. Hi, so welcome back. Today is our first official lecture on Trademark. We did a little intro lecture that's about 7 minutes long, but we're going to do now the official introduction. Again, I'm reading from the new Just Wanna Trademark book. It's giving you an overview. We're going to try to give you an overview of trademarks. I hope you learn a bunch, and we'll start with the introduction. Trademarks have become part of our everyday world. They help us recognize and differentiate between goods, services, and companies. Many of us create blogs, make products, and sell things online. We start companies and participate in industries which continue to thrive. We create groups, services, and nonprofits. We identify these entities and their goods and services by their names, and those names are often trademarked. And we all post online, whether publishing a website or posting on social media, selling books, or selling patterns, and sharing YouTube how-to videos. We make what would have been a local event or product into something the world can see. Trademarks protect that source identifier, which is your name, or your product name, or your service name. And by federally registering that trademark, it gives you strength throughout the U.S., and if you want to go abroad, it can potentially give you a priority in other countries. It's super important. Now, this isn't in the introduction. One of the things that we keep hearing about all the time is, well, you don't really need to trademark your work. And that's just like a waste of money, and it's too expensive. Well, first of all, yes, you do. So because we use hashtags, and hashtags can be a source identifier, if you don't, you open yourself up to a big company or somebody else, a small company, starting to use your name and your hashtag for their source identifier. So a good example is JustWannaQuilt. So if somebody wants to write hashtag JustWannaQuilt because they really just want to quilt, that's totally okay. Like, I can't stop them from doing it. But let's say Moda decides to put out a line of fabric that's called JustWannaQuilt, and we find out about it, and they're using the hashtag JustWannaQuilt. That's a source identifier, and then we would send them a letter saying, this is a registered trademark. We think you're too close to what we do. There's going to be consumer confusion, and please stop using that hashtag. If you haven't registered your trademark federally, you really don't have any. It's just by the kindness of Moda that they would stop using it. So we really think that because the way hashtags are used at this point, that trademarks have become very relevant for anyone who really cares about their name or their slogan. Now, the other question I get over and over again is, well, it's too expensive. Yes, it can be, and historically it's been expensive. In the recent years, there have been a bunch of online services that allow you to kind of do automated registration through them. When we did a study at the university, these were terrible. They're very, all they're basically doing is taking the form that's at the USPTO and replicating it in a different format. It's not providing you guidance or anything more. So we decided that we were going to write a book because we couldn't find the how-to book out there that really helped you. And so we wrote Just Wanna Trademark. So Just Wanna Trademark is really meant for you to be able to go step by step through the book to understand how you register your work. Now, we've been doing this now for about a year, helping people register their work. We're not attorneys. We're not your attorney. But in terms of experimenting and in the classroom, we'll bring people in and we'll teach them how to do it. And what we're finding is if you can read through the book and understand the basics, or listen to these lectures plus read through the book, once you get to looking at your own name, it goes pretty quickly. It's not a hard process to register your work. You just have to be prepared and have done your homework. So we've seen that it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to register your trademark once you've done the homework. And you also find along the way if you do need to hire a lawyer, or you're starting to feel like it's just too much. So this book is really meant to take those costs, which we saw as between maybe $500 to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, plus the government fees of $225, and reduce it just to the cost of the book, which is $50, and the fees for the government fees, which are $225 for one trademark. So we think that's a good investment. Now, we also see that people say, well, we can't afford it, or my business, there's all, I have to wait, and that just seems too much. Well, think about how much you're investing in terms of your time, in terms of how much you're spending on your website, all kinds of things that you're doing if you're really taking this seriously as a business. And we think that spending that $225 is super important. And it's important to do it really early, because you could spend 2 or 3 years building up your business and then find out you can't use your name. And what you've built up is goodwill behind a particular name that you suddenly now have to change. So trademark, I think, when you're starting a business, the key components for starting a business are getting your corporate structure, your LLC or your C Corp or your nonprofit, getting a bank account, getting a federal ID number, and doing your trademark work. Those are the 4 things you need to do to get up and running for a business. It's not something to be put off. It's something you really do need to do at the beginning. Even if you're not ready to put products or services out in the market, you can do an intent to use, and that an intent to use application, and that holds your place so that when you're ready, you can do that. You can pay an extra $100 and have it fully on board. So trademark's super important. I hope you keep listening. Again, this is sort of companies. All companies have trademarks. They may not be registered with the federal government, but it's super important to do that at this point. It's just our world is too much on the internet not to do it. Okay, so that's our lesson for the day. So what we're going to be doing in the next sessions is take you through how to research a proposed mark and how to evaluate the strength of the mark. We think you should be doing this as part of your naming process and not months or years later. If you already have a business or a product and you're just listening to this or reading the book, that's okay. We just encourage you to think about the trademark process at the start or when you come to it, because it's really important to make sure that you aren't infringing on someone else's work, or that your mark isn't too generic, so that you can protect it. Many people think of this as an afterthought category, and then they find out that they can't use the mark, or they have to rebrand, which is always a bit heartbreaking. So again, think about the trademark. Do your trademark homework as you're starting to think about your business, or now as you're listening to this this episode. It's super, super important. One more aspect before we go with this short lecture is trademarks are regulated by the Commerce Clause. Congress is given the authority to create trademark laws through the Commerce Clause, which is 183 in the Constitution. It's a means for preventing unfair competition and regulating goodwill between companies. We'll talk more about what goodwill means in subsequent lectures. Only companies can sue for trademark infringement, not customers. And it's an industry-based law, not a consumer law. That said, companies can sue on behalf of customers, or on the basis of customer confusion or likelihood of confusion for the customer. So when you think about a trademark, you're thinking about it's an industry thing, it's about economics, and it's about naming. We will talk more about sort of all of these concepts in the next session. Trademark is also part of our culture. We wear trademarked clothing and have trademarks in our life in every way. You may be wearing a Tulane Law School trademarked shirt right now. I imagine you are. We also see trademarks when we go to the grocery store, when we turn on the TV. We identify if we want to go binge watch something, we go to Netflix or we may go to Amazon. Those are trademarks. They're all part of our world. You cannot not see a trademark throughout your day. Trademarks are also, sometimes we talk and use trademarks. So we talk about a McMansion or a Rolls Royce of pencils. This is also a component of trademark that we have to understand. And finally, as artists and creators, we use trademarks in our work, and we are going to understand and talk about how to understand when you can, not when you can, but how the law feels about you using other people's trademark work. And we'll talk about it in terms of artists and creators in a pretty significant way. So we'll be talking about how you register a mark, but then also how you how fair use and other uses come into play when other people use your trademark. We see that we're not going in depth into any of these issues. That really is part of our next book, which is called JustWannaQuilt, Copyright and Fair Use Strategies. But we'll touch a little bit upon it in this series to get you interested in pursuing that more. So again, welcome to our trademark lectures. I hope you find them useful. And again, if you want to purchase the book, you can do that at our website, JustWannaQuilt.com. You can also purchase it at Amazon. And of course, you can go to our store, which is JustWannaQuilt.bigcartel.com. So next time we'll be talking about trademark basics. We're going to look at trademark as a source identifier. We're going to look at why you need a trademark, local, state, federal trademarks, and beyond the United States. And we'll talk about more. But those are some of the topics we'll be looking at next time on Just Wanna Quilt Trademark Lectures.
So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.